know that.
Oh, thank you.
Really appreciate you and all you do.
What do you want?
I don't want anything. It's just nice to,
That's what you
it's just
get
nice.
instead of a raise.
It's just nice to hear once in a while, isn't it?
It is, thank you. I appreciate that.
So when he gets back, I'll let you know. If not, we'll have to. Yeah.
It's done now, so.
Okay.
Well, if.
7 o'clock.
But if we can, yeah.
Hey.
Then-
All right, good evening, everyone. I'm going to call this regular meeting of the Town of Griswold Board of Finance to order November 19th, 2024, 7 PM at the Town Hall Meeting Room. First item on the agenda, roll call to order.
We have all members present.
Okay,
Mr. Chairman, if I could make a motion that we move the executive session under 4C to the next item after number 7, public forum.
okay. So we have a motion to move 4C executive session to appear between item 7 and item 8, public forum and adjournment. Is there a second? Okay, any discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion carries. Item 2, public forum. Does anyone wish to speak? Okay, moving on to item 3, approval of minutes. A, October 15th, 2024, regular meeting minutes.
Make a motion that we approve the October 15th minutes.
Second.
Okay, first and second, any discussion? You're not going to vote. All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion carries. Item 4, new business. 4A, finance director's monthly report.
All right, I gave you the revenue and expenditure report for the current fiscal year and fund balance analysis. Revenues right now, we're at $14,791,036.76. That's 34.96% of budget revenues. No major concerns at this point. I think we'll be fine with revenues. Expenditures, so far, we're at $15,504,474.18. That is 36.65 of budget expenditures. No major concerns at this point, only 2 items currently over. One we've discussed and one new one due to some repairs at the youth center, but it's only over by a little bit, nothing to be concerned about. As far as fund balance analysis, right now I'm projecting at the end of the year to be around 19.79%. So it's about 332,000 above our maximum. So I think we'll be in good shape so far. Again, it's early in the year. Winter hasn't happened yet, so things can change, but that's where I'm projecting things right now. If anyone has any questions, I will be happy to answer them.
Is this all updated from 19.98 on
These are updated numbers right now.
the different from this?
What's that?
It says 19.98.
That's at the end of 24. The 1979 is projected at the end of 25.
Any other questions? Okay, we're going to move on to 4B, updates from Superintendent of Griswold Public Schools, Sean McKenna.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Good evening, everybody. In your packets, you should have the November 14th communication I sent to the board chair. It's the first quarter financial report, which was presented to the Griswold Board of Education last month. All of our reports are posted online, worst case scenario, meaning that it's still very much early in the game. We have had some unanticipated costs under the student services special education line. So at this point in time, if things were to end, we would be over budget by approximately $186,000. We will provide an update after the second quarter report, which would be after December. If there are any questions that you may have, I'm happy to.
Yeah, question, Mr. Chairman.
Go ahead, sir.
Might not be pertaining to this, but it probably comes into play. Do we have it projected, or do you know how much we're getting from the state? Or do we get any money from the state?
We do get money from the state for 2 big grants. One is called BCS, which is set in stone with the budget from the governor. That's the biennium budget.
Yeah.
And then we have what we call excess costs that we're anticipating getting approximately
Currently, we have that.
Yeah, currently we have about $700,000 in the budget that was netted against the budget. So if that could go up due to these costs, we don't know. We have to wait and see.
The only reason why I ask is because, I was talking to someone from a different board of ed, and he was explaining to me how their budget has suffered because of the fact that this money they get from the state has dropped dramatically over the past 8 to 10 years, from like 27% down to 18% of their budget. And I was just wondering, how have we been affected?
I suspect that's the ECS grant.
Okay.
There are a number of communities in Connecticut where the calculation has been reestablished, whereby they could lose money that they used to get. Right now, we're okay, but I would caution everybody to sort of step back because the governor hasn't created the biennium budget, which will happen this winter with legislation.
No, I was just curious.
Scott, can I
Eric, yes,
add to that?
yes,
Rob, I think a lot of what's happening, the same thing's really happening with us as far as our state funding has been generally pretty much flat for the last 10 years or so.
Okay.
So as our other revenues go up, like tax revenues, that percentage is getting higher and our state funding is getting lower. So it's pretty much happening everywhere because it's not necessarily that the state's cutting money, it's that they're not adding to it. So it's that staying flat while everything else is going up.
Okay, all right. Thanks, Chris. I appreciate that.
does anyone else have any questions for Sean?
I do.
Thanks. Tom?
On the first quarter fiscal year financial report, on the expenses and revenue table, column for salaries, if you look at the expended 2024-25 plus the encumbered 2024-25, is listed as adding up to the addition of those two values is listed as adding to a total of 18,818,000. I was doing some checking through this report just to understand what each of these columns mean. And for that salary line, it did not add up to the 18,818,000. They added up to 18,723,000. All the other rows, benefits, purchases, etc. When you added those two columns, they did come up to the total expenses and encumbrances.
Do they have the full report?
I haven't, no, they just have the summary page. I did not.
So there's a $94,305.04 difference there between what you're indicating are expended and encumbered, and it's the salary line item that is off. If we look at the total and we add those up, we get the 30,715,000, everything balances. But if we look at, or it's, I should say, that's not true. When we add everything up and we compare it to the total expense encumbrances, it's off by 94,305. So it's the category of salaries that it's either underreported on what's expended or it's underreported on what's encumbered, because that 18,818,217 is not the sum of the expended and the encumbered as they're reported on this form.
And some of that is offset by expenditures that we incur for students that we bill for. So some of the revenues that offset aren't reflected there,
Okay,
but they're in the anticipated. So I'd have to have some of the detail as well. And I can look at it and get back to you.
okay. Yeah, Tom, it looked like it didn't balance, I guess, basically, right? I
Yeah,
mean, that's, yeah,
I just assume that those two columns added together should come up to the total expenses and encumbrances, because one is expenses, one's encumbered, and it says total expense encumbered. I expected those two to equal.
Right, well, there's 14 pages that go behind it.
So there's
And it
additional
all fits
revenues that are
into it.
offsetting this.
So I'd have to check to
Okay.
see if there's something in the programming or something didn't, but it should all add up, you're right.
yeah,
I'm
something
not
didn't
quite
pull
sure.
in or
I'll have to look
something.
at the detail. Get back to you.
Yeah.
Yeah, get back to you.
Any other questions? Okay, we're going to move on to 5A old business, discussion and possible action on funding protected glass in tax assessor offices. I think how we left it was, there was some discussion about perhaps changing the scope of the project from initially just the glass to either the glass or the film, or maybe going to the bulletproof glass. I don't know if we've gotten any further on that.
Well, actually, yes and no. We're looking for funding to figure out what we're supposed to do, you know what I mean, at the end of the day, so. Obviously, if you have the terminology bulletproof, it's a whole nother world from bullet resistant, so we were using the wrong terminology to begin with.
Okay.
With when you start getting into bidding with people, because it requires door changes, it requires sheetrock modifications, you know, so I guess what I would, and I can't talk for our first like, but what I would, the guy was spearheading it, if you give us a budget, we can work within that budget, but we certainly can't go back out to people to go to bid multiple times and not have a direction, or if we're funding or not funding, or
Right.
something like that. We had some numbers on the table, and I felt you guys were comfortable with that, and if we could throw it out there and say, hey, you got this amount of money, and, you know, that would be my better scenario than
Okay.
just going out in the air again with a net and bringing everything back and not having a direction. That's my problem.
Okay, so we approved, I don't know, I don't remember now what it was,
10,000.
6,500, 7,000, just under 70, 74.99.
The first one.
7,500.
6,500 was the first one. And then, correct me if I'm wrong, I believe that we then spoke about a film that was gonna be
Right.
applied. And then I think it went up to like 73 or 7,400.
Yeah,
And the
just
last
under.
time I knew, that's where we left it, waiting for another bid.
Right,
So if we're going another direction, I think we need to discuss that and find out what direction it is.
so I guess my question, and I'm gonna kind of push it back this way, it was some figure close to 7,500, but under the 7,500 limit. Are we better positioned at this point now that if there are adders or changes to the project that go above that, to then perhaps earmark ARPA money for that portion of the project, and then,
Yeah, there was another function that, which is Public Works, was gonna do some other work to the facility, so it was close to 10 by the time we did, I believe it was close to 10 for all that stuff, but I could be wrong.
I think what we did is we went up, right up to that bid, you know,
Right.
just under the bid threshold for the 75, and then if there was gonna be additional work.
I just didn't want to.
Yeah, so I guess my question is, maybe it might be, I don't know if I want to say simpler, I don't know if that's the right way that I want to say that, but it might be simpler if you are also looking to earmark projects for the ARPA monies to earmark either that project or the balance of that project above that 73 and change to come out of the ARPA fund.
Yeah.
And then we don't need to continue to table this at the same time.
Then we can go forward.
Correct,
And we'll get multiple quotes.
correct.
Yeah, we can do that.
Let's-
I mean, it's a discussion. Selectmen will have, but I don't have an issue with it.
Okay. I mean, certainly if you decided to earmark it out of ARPA, that takes it out of our lap altogether. I don't know how, I don't want to put the Board of Selectmen on the spot, but does that make sense to proceed that way and then?
We just want to get it done. and get it
Right,
out.
okay, okay. I mean, you've got what we've already appropriated, and then anything above that.
Yeah, I think that's a good idea, because then you're gonna do what you wanna do and not be limited to, well, we don't have the funding.
Right.
I think that's a good
Thank you.
idea.
Okay.
So I think, Mr. Chairman, we need to have a motion to remove any contingencies and go ahead with the funding for the protective glass and the tax assessor tax and the assessor offices at what was approved. I don't know how many meetings ago.
So your motion would be to remove the contingencies.
The contingency
And that
was for an additional
and
quote.
that any monies above that need to be appropriated
would be handled by
Handled by
the
the
Board of Selectmen with
okay,
potentially ARPA funds.
okay. Do you want to make that motion?
Yeah, that's my motion.
Perfect. We have a second?
Second.
Okay, any discussion? Okay, hearing none, we're gonna vote. All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion carries. Five B, update and discussion on bonding projects.
Sewer project is essentially done with the exception of the pump station. Water project, I don't know if they began yet, but they're gonna begin just this year doing 2 crossovers on 164 to get that all paved, temporary paved over the winter and then permanently paved. And that way we won't have to redo the road all over again when we do the water project. So we did get the go-ahead from DECD to go ahead and start on that. So they're gonna do the 2 laterals going across 164 this month. I don't know if they started yet, but the rest of it will be done in the spring. They may try and do some things over between now and winter time, but they won't be going in the road. It's just for the laterals. But they were talking about trying to do some of the bridge work, but I don't know if that'll get done. If not, everything will resume in the spring.
And that's over 164 on the Preston side of the bridge?
Yes. Because right now, the water ends by where Oak Tree Village is, so we're gonna extend it under the bridge and then down to 64.
Water's been awarded, right? So,
Yeah.
will that start in the spring?
Well, they're gonna do the 2 laterals.
Yeah,
now.
just the 2 laterals now, but the bulk of it will be all spring. Yeah.
Oh, and also on bonding projects, I forgot to mention, we did, receive the final USDA money for the senior center. So we received the full 411,000.
Fantastic.
Excellent.
We were hoping, so that all got resolved, so that's a good thing, so things are actually finally looking better.
So is that amount reimbursing some expenditures that we've already made? So it
Yes.
goes back into the,
Yeah, so now I'm gonna kind of finalize, now that I got that final one, finalize the fund.
Mhm.
And then probably either next month or the one after, ask you guys to close it out and transfer the money.
will
Are you-
that increase the 19.98%?
If it goes back into the general.
Yeah.
fund, yes. Yeah.
Will you be able to give us a, quick and dirty spreadsheet on just kind of tying everything out?
Mhm.
Okay,
Yeah.
perfect.
Mr. Chairman,
Yes, sir.
question, any other info on water tower yet?
The location's been determined, they're working on redesigning the tank. The road was accepted. It's gonna go up to the water tower. Albemarle Road's gonna go up to the tower and connect to Barber Road. So that piece has been accepted at town meeting. They're preparing all the documents, the engineers are, to move the water tower. So once they're done with that, it'll go out to bid and then that'll be done over the spring, summertime as well.
Everyone all set? Okay, we're gonna move on, update from Recreation Budget Subcommittee.
Mr. Chairman, Tom and I were not able to meet with Ryan, in the last month, primarily my fault. I've been just flat out, but we will be meeting with him between now and the December meeting.
Moving on, item 6, any of the business? Anybody have anything? Okay, then we're going to move on to item 7, public forum. Anyone wish to speak? Perfect. We're going to move on then to executive session. I'm gonna look for a motion to enter into executive session for the purpose of discussion on a matter that will result in disclosing public records that are exempt from disclosure, and in the process, invite in the finance director, the Board of Selectmen, and the Jewett City Borough Warden. Am I correct?
So moved.
Perfect. Okay. We have a second? Okay, any discussion? We'll vote, all in favor?
Aye.
Yeah.
Well, yeah.